I went to IKEA for one shelf. It became a psychological battle. A casino wants to trap you long enough to empty your wallet. A maze wants to confuse you until escape feels impossible. And somehow, IKEA found a way to combine both. Last weekend, I went there for one bookshelf. That's it. One shelf. Simple mission. In, out, easy. Instead, 3 hours later, I was emotionally defeated, carrying furniture I didn't need, surviving entirely on Swedish meatballs, and questioning whether I was still legally allowed to leave the building. And somehow, the bookshelf was not even the biggest problem. I'm terrible at decorating, not because I have bad taste. I just have this unbelievable ability to turn every tiny household task into a 6-month side quest. I have pictures leaning against my wall right now that have been about to be hung up for over a year. At one point, I literally looked at a frame and said, "Yeah, this is the perfect spot." And instead of hanging it up, I carefully placed it on the floor so I wouldn't forget. That picture still lives there today, like a failed construction project. But recently, I somehow came into possession of 30 Warrior Cats books. Don't ask questions. And instead of hiding them in a closet like a responsible adult, I decided it was finally time to buy an actual bookshelf and pretend I have my life together. So I started looking online. Big mistake. Furniture websites are terrifying. Every couch costs the same amount as a used car. Every lamp looks like modern art, and every room is designed by someone who absolutely owns 3 expensive candles and says things like, "We wanted the space to feel emotionally breathable." Meanwhile, I just needed something to hold books. That's it. So eventually, I gave up and went with old reliable, IKEA. Now, technically, I could have just paid for delivery, but the older you get, the more IKEA stops feeling like a furniture store and starts feeling like an event, like a theme park designed specifically for adults who own printers. So I drove there completely confident this would be the fastest IKEA trip of my entire life. I would grab shelf, eat meatballs, and leave victorious. That was my first mistake, because if you know anything about IKEA, there is no such thing as a quick IKEA trip. The first warning sign appeared almost immediately. I got in line for the famous 12-piece Swedish meatball meal. Now, I don't know what they put in IKEA meatballs. Maybe butter, maybe magic, maybe tiny pieces of couch, but those things are incredible. So I grabbed my tray, sat down, and counted the meatballs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 11. There were 11 meatballs. Now listen, I know this sounds dramatic, but when a company specifically promises 12 meatballs and only gives you 11, society starts breaking down a little bit. I genuinely considered walking back and complaining, but I'm not emotionally prepared for confrontation. IKEA knew that. That missing meatball established dominance immediately. And somehow, the trip kept getting worse. After lunch, I went to refill my water bottle at one of those fancy refill stations. But the water stream curved sideways like it was actively trying to avoid me, so I had to keep moving my bottle back and forth like I was trying to win a carnival game. And halfway through filling it, I remember thinking, you know what? I actually wish this machine was completely broken, because then I could emotionally move on. But no. It technically worked, which somehow made it more insulting. Still, I remained focused. I skipped grabbing a shopping cart because I only needed one item. This was my second mistake. Because IKEA is not a store, it is a carefully designed psychological obstacle course. You walk in thinking, I'll just go grab the shelf. No. First, you must travel through 17 fully decorated fake apartments designed by Scandinavian wizards. Every room makes you question your current life choices. You'll walk past a perfectly organized bedroom and suddenly think, maybe I do need a tiny plant beside my bed. You don't, but IKEA makes you believe you do. And then I saw the Kallax section, or as normal people pronounce it, the shelf thing. Now, originally, I thought there was just one Kallax. No, there are apparently 57 different variations. Big Kalaks, small Kalaks, wide Kalaks, tall Kalaks. At this point, it felt less like shopping and more like selecting a Pokemon evolution. And then I noticed the storage cubes. Now, suddenly I needed cubes and baskets and little organizer drawers, which meant I needed a shopping cart. Unfortunately, IKEA operates like a one-way highway designed by a supervillain. The arrows on the floor are not suggestions, those are laws. So instead of simply turning around like a normal human, I had to walk all the way back through the showroom again. And this place is enormous. I genuinely think IKEA bends space and time. At one point, I'm pretty sure I walked past the same lamp 3 separate times. The deeper you go, the stranger it becomes. There's always one guy testing a couch like he's signing a mortgage agreement. There's always a toddler screaming at a frequency that damages electronics. And there's always a couple silently fighting over cabinet colors. That's just IKEA ecosystem behavior. But the real danger of walking through the showroom twice is eventually you start convincing yourself you need things. I saw a tiny wooden end table with a spotlight shining directly onto it like it had been chosen by destiny itself. And suddenly, my brain went, you know what? What would completely transform your life is a printer table. I don't even like my printer. But 5 minutes later, that table was in my cart. Now, I'm no longer buying a bookshelf. I'm rebuilding my entire identity. Eventually, I made it down to the giant warehouse section, where everything becomes industrial and stressful. This is where IKEA stops pretending to be friendly. Massive shelves tower over you like you're in a storage facility run by giants. And of course, the storage dividers I wanted were shoved all the way in the back. At this point, I had fully lost patience, so I climbed halfway into the shelf like a raccoon searching through garbage. What was I supposed to do? Ask for help? No, I had come too far. But then came the final boss battle, the printer table. Apparently, it wasn't available in the warehouse and had to be picked up separately. So I showed my receipt to an employee, and my order appeared on a giant screen with an estimated wait time of 10 minutes. Easy, except 10 minutes passed, then 20, then 30. At this point, I looked like a man stranded at an airport. Finally, I walked up and asked, "Hey, did you guys forget about me?" And the employee goes, "Oh yeah, we're waiting for someone certified to use the forklift." I'm sorry, certified? Brother, at this point, I'll drive the forklift myself. I had added almost an entire extra hour to my trip for a table I didn't even originally want. And the worst part, I never even measured if my printer would fit on it. I was gambling with furniture dimensions. Thankfully, it actually fit perfectly, which honestly felt suspicious. But weirdly enough, the thing I remember most from that entire IKEA trip wasn't the missing meatball or the endless maze or the printer table. It happened when I was walking through the showroom. I saw a woman pushing her elderly mother in a wheelchair while trying to carry a bunch of items at the same time. And even though I had traveled half the planet to get my shopping cart, I asked, "Hey, do you want this?" And she immediately smiled and said yes. So I gave her my cart and walked all the way back to get another one. Later, down in the warehouse, I saw the same woman again when I was struggling to lift one of the giant boxes, and she looked at me and asked, "Do you need help?" And I don't know why, but that stuck with me, because sometimes one tiny act of kindness completely changes the energy of someone's entire day. We spend so much time decorating rooms, organizing shelves, scrolling through our phones, and trying to make our lives look perfect, that we forget there are actual people out there, real moments, real interactions. And somehow I found that reminder in the middle of a giant Swedish furniture maze. So if you've got pictures leaning against your wall right now, go hang them up. It'll take like 2 minutes, probably.